Hello and welcome to another episode of Teen Minds Redefined, where we strive to redefine how we support our teenagers and how we reimagine our relationships with them and allow them to grow into their true, authentic selves. And today I am so excited. I have two incredible guests. We have Jackie Bruno, no Italian there, I'm sure, former pro athlete, current coach and mentor, and fostering the relationship between coaches and players to optimize player potential and encourage them to be their best self. And joining Jackie, we have Eric Kraut, Coach Kraut, who's a seasoned softball coach whose accomplishments include assistant coach at the University of Rochester. Eric led the Yellow Jackets to an unprecedented success. At the College of Staten Island, he laid the foundation for a championship culture during his tenure as head coach and assistant coach at Yale University, propelling the Bulldogs to their best records with a passion for fostering an open communication between parents and teens. Together, they will provide valuable insight for our diverse audience. So without further ado, let's dive in. And I'm going to say first, that was my little intro. So Jackie, why don't you start telling us a little bit more that I missed that's really important?
Of course. Thank you so much for having us, first of all. Eric and I go way back. We used to coach together at the College of Staten Island. I was on the women's soccer side as he was on softball. Since our days at CSI, I have moved across the country to California, where I currently coach a Division I program, Cal State Fullerton. So I'm very involved in the college game, but I also coach club and different grassroots programs. So I kind of am involved with athletes at all stages of their athletic career and kind of help the player fall in love with the sport to hopefully propel them to want to pursue playing in college and post-college. And making sure that they are like their most confident selves. The thing that really drives me is the rate at which female athletes pull out of sport. And it is ultimately like my goal to make sure they pursue sport until they feel like they are ready to leave it, not for any extenuating circumstance. And then my final passion project is continuing to help more female coaches start coaching.
Fabulous. Thank you. That's such good work. I love even just thinking female athletes dropping out for other circumstances I love that support. That's so cool. Eric, you're up.
First, as Jackie said, I'm so honored to be here. I know Jack and I, we've been looking forward to this all week. So super excited. So thank you. Just to piggyback off, so my last residency was at the University of Rochester, which we had some great success. And as that ended up, I kind of pivoted out of coaching on the college level and am now going more of the consultant role where helping coaches learn to communicate with their athletes effectively so they can get the most out of them so they become high performers, not only on the field, but also off the field. I just feel like coaching these days is more of a yelling and telling versus a way of communicating and really understanding the athlete, who they are as a person. I also think sometimes coaches take it as an ego. Let's be honest, coaches have egos. It's just how and know and when to put that ego into check to really get to know your athletes, to get the best out of them. And so that's my passion. That's what we've been doing, is consulting with travel teams, college teams, and that coaching staff to really help build that bond in that relationship within each other. So there's a trust and empowerment cycle there.
That's awesome. I think what's really sitting with me as you're talking is my audience is typically parents and parents of teenagers. And clearly, you both didn't become athletes at 20. I'm assuming you pursued sports growing up, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So the questions I'm going to ask they're going to be from different perspectives, from you as athletes, younger athletes, from you as younger athletes with parents who are helping you through this, with you as coaches of younger athletes coming up from high school and maybe post-secondary, college, university. I'm in Canada. We call college, and university, and you guys get it backwards. So whatever.
Yes,
I think we can
too.
figure that out. So my very first question, and you can both just take turns answering because you'll have two different perspectives, is I see parents, and this goes not just in sports at school, but beyond, parents living vicariously through their kids. So I'm seeing dads that, could have been on the NHL, but busted a knee, or mom, could have been on the Olympic volleyball, but so now you're going to do it. Now we're going to give you every opportunity. I want to know how you feel about having your kid who is now like your captive protege. So take that away.
I'll go. I see it a lot. Like I said, I coach at the younger, I start when they're 8 years old, and a lot of the time it's their first experience in a more competitive, structured club environment. And it's exciting. It really is. And I think the parents get really amped up to see their kid learning, progressing, and growing. But I think a really important thing at the beginning of it all is just to kind of zoom out and say, what is our goal here? If it's to get a college scholarship, like that is far, far away. We don't need to be, pressing our 9-year-olds who still might not know their left and right and how to tie their shoe about being an elite competitor. So I think zooming out and keeping like a bigger, broader picture is my kid having fun? Are they enjoying the game? Are they, growing into their bodies? Are they learning motor skills? Are they learning how to socialize? I think those are the things that need to be put at the forefront of why you're doing this. Because all the other things will eventually, come into play. But when they're little, they have to love it. You shouldn't have to convince them to go to training and things like that. But the biggest thing that I see in a competitive environment in Southern California is like this keeping up with the Joneses, where, oh, this player is on this extra team, or this person does extra training with this coach and it moved them to this level. The rate at which kids like athletic performances, it's cyclical, it's up and it's down, and it's not always going to look a certain way. So I like, once again, zoom out. Don't look to your left, don't look to your right. Don't worry about what Susie's doing. Worry about your individual player, how they're feeling, if they want to go to practice. Because if they're 9 years old and they don't want to go run around and play with their friends, usually that's an indicator that you're pushing too hard anyway. But I think the biggest thing is, focusing on you and your family, what makes the most sense, and not looking to, the pressures that you even get on social media. The amount of 9-year-olds that have social medias with highlight film is really crazy. But I think, if you decide as a family to put your kids in sports, and it'll change, every couple of years, of what is the goal? Is this something that we want to pursue heavily? How hard do we push? Because every kid is different. Even within your family, your oldest might be way different than your youngest. And I think it's putting parent ego and, your perception of everything, putting it on the back burner and really refocusing and recentering on your child.
Good.
Eric might be a little bit meaner than what I have to say.
I like to call it more honest, real. No, just kidding. No, Jackie hits it right in the head, and obviously, she hits a lot more with the younger kids, and also with the recruiting kids as well, the recruiting age. It's not about the parents. It's not. And I'm at a unique position. I'm going to show my age, where when I go recruiting, I go from a point of view of a coach, but also as a parent, because I went through the recruiting process with my stepdaughter and kind of like lay out the timeline. Like, I was lucky enough, my parents supported me, but didn't what's the word? Didn't judge my play. Their job, and this is what I was instilled, so I was able to instill it to my stepdaughter. Like, they go to watch me play, and they never sat with the other parents because the other parents are always comparing themselves. Like, why is my kid playing? Why are they doing this? Judging the coach. Why is that kid playing? And just talking shit. And then when that parent went away, they would say something about that kid. So it took after that, because I enjoy, like, my joy is watching my stepdaughter play softball when she played. So I would be in the outfield, away from all the parents, away from the talk and the bad mouthing and whatever. But so the reason why I say that is I realized that it's not about me. I'm there to be a parent. And my as a job as a parent to an athlete is just to love them and support them no matter what. Okay, you're not the effing coach. Sorry, you're not. And to answer the question about parents getting their justification through their kids, is I think it's great that the parents are involved in their sports when they're young, but it's a learning time. It's a time for you to bond with your child, learn basics, but at a certain point you got to let go to someone else, to another coach that is more capable and more educated on the field, and also internally, hopefully internally and emotionally. Then you gotta let it go and then just enjoy it. I can't tell you how many times, like, I used to play in high school. I'm like, well, who effing didn't play in high school? And stop. So I'll tell you a funny story. And Jackie put up a good keeping up with the Joneses, good phrase, keeping up with the Joneses. I won't name names, but a family that's close to us is going through this process with their recruiting process with their daughter. She's a junior in high school. And at the beginning of the recruiting process, they didn't know anything. And my wife and I, obviously, I'm a coach, and obviously my wife went through it with her daughter. And so they leaned on us for some, guidance and advice. So they went from like being really, really excited and enjoying the process to seeing the pitfalls of it, as Jackie said, keeping the Joneses, where their friend might have been a little better, different positions, getting all this attention from a D1, and then bragging about this showcase, that showcase, this and that. And then they fell into that trap. And one of the schools that that was really interested started writing their daughter more often. And they had again, this is where the ego comes in, like, because they were alumni of that school. Are they writing to her because we're their alumni, or because she's really good? I'm like, because she's really good. It's not about you. It's because of the work she's doing. So it's very easy to fall in that trap. You say, it won't happen to me, but if it's really easy. It's a slippery slope because it's really easy, because you want your kids to do well, and you want them to get them up. But you got to remember, it's their dream, not yours.
Okay, so give me 2 or 3 things that you would say to a parent if you recognized, oh, this is not going the way I want it to go. This is someone who has trapped their protege. This is what kind of conversations would you have? A couple of things you would say to a parent or mentor, guardian, or whatever.
Oh, Jackie.
My biggest one is, what does your conversation look like on the car ride home after a game?
Yes.
That is my number one. Absolutely. That I have vivid memories of not the game, of what happened on the car ride home. And I had a great dynamic with my mom. She was always there, supportive, similar to Eric's family, where she didn't say too much. I knew she was there, and I knew she was involved, I knew she was invested, but I never felt like she was really critiquing my game. There were 1 or 2 times, though, on a car ride home where I know that I didn't play great, and having to hear it from her as well just like put me deeper into a hole. I think the most important thing that you can say to your kid in that moment is, you know, I really enjoyed watching you play today. And then you wait for them to give you more. They should be leading the discussion, not you. They should be communicating their goals and how they see themselves as an athlete. And it shouldn't be dictated by mom and dad. Mom and dad you're there to support, but get a better and truer understanding of what your child's athletic journey is looking like without you dictating it. So that's my number one.
That's so good. And I know that I've, had lots of friends whose kids played hockey, and I've always noticed the quiet ride home if there's a loss. And I also notice, and I'll let you answer this too, Eric, is when they get off the ice or they come off the field and it's like, oh, you got to do this and you got to check this and you got to watch this and you got to do this. And I'm like, reflect back to the coach. Why are you doing this? You're not getting paid for this. That drives me crazy. So talk to that, Eric, and maybe lead into they get off the field, they get off the ice, they get off the court, major loss, looking at it like a failure. How do you talk to them? And do you even talk to them about it?
I think Jackie alluded to it. You let them dictate it based on their body language. You don't trust them. Shut up. Because you don't know what they're thinking. And the last thing they want to hear from their parent is, why that happened? Why'd you do this? How come you didn't do that? How come? Why? They know that they played well or not. You don't need to reinforce it, right? It's you read their body language, let them start it. Whether you win or lose, it's a hug to your kid. High five, hug, whatever you do. That's what you do, regardless. It's showing them I love you no matter what. Not like I love you if. I think part of the mental health issues, which is probably another topic altogether, which podcast in itself, like a 10-parter, is my parent. I'm overgeneralizing, but my parent loves me only when I do well. And by the way, that's more happens more often than you think, right? And that causes that mental health. But I digress. Like, so you just need to hug them or feel what they want. Maybe they don't want a hug. Maybe they don't want anything. Just shut up and let them do what they want to do, because they don't want to hear a critique from their parents or a guardian, because they're going to hear it from the coach. And if they're really care and they're really dialed in, they're already beating themselves up. They're already beating themselves up internally. To come full circle to the original question is, what do you say? What we would say to is, I mean, I'm a little more blunt, obviously. I'm like, it's not about you. And I might start with that or end with it, but it always comes back to like, what does your child want? What does your child want? Like, does he or she, in Jackie's situation, the club level, does he or she want to play in that club team, which travels 365, 7 days a week across the country? And by the way, that's a big expense. So there's another pressure on the parent to make sure they are good, not even just good, excelling, if not the best kid on the team, best top two, because it's subconscious, consciously justifying that big investment that they're putting in the kid. Mm-hmm. Even when it goes to the next level, and Jackie also deals with that with the college recruits as I do, is, do you really want to go to college and play? Because that's the next level of responsibility, commitment, work. And I sometimes think the parents just want to do it because, as I call it, brag book, Facebook. It's like, look at my kid, scholarship to whatever, but she's miserable. He or she is miserable.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to go backwards now, and I know I have a very strong opinion on this. I'm not going to express it yet because I want to see what you guys think. But how do you feel about the younger, the little 2 and 3 and 5 and 8-year-olds? They join their soccer, their baseball, but there's no score and everybody gets a prize. And I think, seeing as I have no filter on my face or my tone, you probably know how I feel. I want to know your take on that one.
I unfortunately think it is a huge detriment to them way later in their athletic career. It might be reassuring to them when they're 5 years old, when they're just starting out and they lose, they get scored on and they start crying. You want to reassure mom and dad, want to make sure that they're okay and they feel better and that they're happy. But long term, and we see it through the collegiate level, college athletics, high school athletics, it's very difficult. Every day is hard. It's not as glamorous as people may think it is, or social media makes it out to seem. Every day is like getting up and going to a job that sometimes isn't very rewarding. You don't always get a pat on the back. My mom used to say this to me, life sucks, no one feels bad for you, get over it. But she would say it in a very joking, loving manner to me, where I'd be like, God, mom, I know, like, I know I'm upset that I lost and nobody feels bad for me. I just got to put my head down and work through it. And I think because she said that to me when I was like 7 years old, and, I had 2 older brothers who kind of like instilled that attitude in me as well. It only made me like fall in love with working hard and that like process oriented type athlete, where I don't care about the game. I love training, like the game's cool too. But I fell in love with training, and I wasn't working only just for the game. Like I was working to get better every single day. And I think that has to be like the topic of, or the subject of reward. It's the same thing. I have so many parents that like bribe their kids. It's like, if you score, I'll give you this. It's like, I understand the incentive, but it can be counterproductive long term. It might give you immediate satisfaction and immediate reward, but there's definitely like long-term ramifications to how they associate winning, losing, gratification, and things like that. So I am not a proponent of not keeping score, everybody getting a trophy, just because, like I said, in that, they're 4 and 5, like, oh, get down, sweetie, and you want them to be positive about their experience, but at the same time, the earlier you learn that, life is hard, you don't always win just because you tried your best. But sometimes there's people that are just better than you. Sometimes people just compete, or the ball doesn't bounce your way. And I think being able to frame it in that way, when you're having that car ride home with your wailing 5-year-old, it makes the conversation easier when they're sitting in the front seat when they're 15 years old. So
I totally agree. And my go-to when my kids were in sports a few years ago, my go-to was, look at you building character. And I always got an eye roll.
Awesome.
But it stuck. Like, look at you building. Look at you. And I love that you said, I love the training. I feel like in anything, if you're more connected to the process and less connected to the outcome, better things happen.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about that, Eric?
I was writing so many notes to keep my thoughts organized and somewhat concise, because it's a hot button. I agree with both of you.
Thank God.
I'm cut of the same cloth as Jackie. Like, I loved the practices. I love spending time in the gym. I love spending time on the field. Like, I could take ground balls all day long, right? I was an infielder. I could do that all day long. And fortunately, it depends if you played for me and how you felt about it. Like, I loved practices. Like, let's go. Like, I felt like sometimes I worked harder than the players when I was actually working with them, because I love it so much. Like, that's it. Like, practices are for coaches. They should be for players, but it's for coaches to get the best out of players. So when the game comes, the game is for the players. That's when you let go and let them do what they do. Sorry, I digress. No, I don't think anyone should get a trophy just for the sake of just getting a trophy for the sake of it. Then why play? Why are you playing? We're just doing it just to do it. It's like working out just to work out. Like, I'm just gonna, or train to just do it. I'm just gonna kick the soccer ball in Jackie's situation just because it's fun. It's great. Fun's nice, right? But you have to find, trying to keep organized. You have to keep you have to find the fun. You have to enjoy the process. Like the training, like Jackie enjoyed it, I enjoyed it. The fun was training so I could play well. Then I was prepared going into the game. I was prepared. I'm sure as Jackie was prepared going into the game because we put all that work in because we learned to enjoy that process. And as Jackie said, like, you're not setting them up for success over the long haul. And I'm seeing it, as I'm sure Jackie's seeing as we've talked about it. You know, we kind of our support staff for each other, like during our seasons, kind of reaching out and sharing these stories. And I can't, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, but I can't tell you how soft these kids are now. And I think it's just kind of the way the culture is being set up now. Everyone's a winner, and it's not necessarily true. I'm not saying you're not special. I'm not saying, but you still have to work at something. Just because you're good, even if you're good, you just can't sit on your laurels and just be, I'm good, I don't have to do anything. False. You have to keep working hard because no one's gonna give it to you just because you work. No one's gonna give it to you just because you're there. So because of that, what ends up happening, especially in later in life, especially in college, is, and I'm sure I've seen it on our team and other teams, is, well, how come I didn't play? I go to practice. Everyone gets to play. That's what it is in college. Younger, everyone gets a trophy. College, everyone gets to play. That's the mentality, which is bullshit because you might not be as good as the person in front of you, so work harder or know your role. That makes sense?
Absolutely. And it's so funny because I did the last 2 or 3 episodes I had with guests. We always seem to get to this common line of let them fail. Let them fail because they're not building any skills. And I find, and now my brain's going right into this conversation because if they don't know how to lose a game at 8, they're going to be devastated at 16, and they're not going to have those small character building skills. This isn't a failure. This is something I'm going to learn from, whatever. But you can fail and you can pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back in the field.
Even in a work, let's take it out of athletics for a second. I think athletics is a great place to learn these values in life and teamwork and all that cliche stuff. But it's real, I think, because you learn how to work in a team, how to work hard. So if you're in a job and you're had this project and the project bombs, what are you going to do? Get a raise? I doubt it. You're lucky for a job. I feel like you said something that is big these days is parents don't let their kids fail. Because they love them. I get it. You love them. You don't want to see them hurt because then you hurt as a parent. But at the same time, you're not doing them any favors. So you kind of let them make the mistakes. I get it. I see it with my kids all the time. They're older. They make mistakes. And I'm like, why can't we tell them that? And my wife's got to remind me, shut up and let them learn. They'll get over it. They'll learn. In my sport, baseball and softball, just because there's more failure in that sport, I tell the kids, young adults, that we're a failure recovery sport. You strike out, don't bring that bat, don't bring it to your next at bat. You better forget about it or make your adjustments. So I think the big buzzword is failure recovery sport. After you fail, like you said, are you learning something or are you going to wallow? Don't get me wrong. You can take a second and be pissed off and sulk a little bit, but then get it out of your system and move on, just like life. Yeah, I love that. Okay, I want to switch gears and I want to talk about, because I'm Canadian and I don't know a great deal about recruiting and scholarships and full scholarship and here's whatever. I don't know a lot about that, but I want to ask about when kids are offered scholarships. How is there a compromise to the academic piece, or is that different now? Do they have to have a certain GPA in order to stay into the scholarship? And there's a 2-part to this.
do you, when you've got kids higher level now, college, sport, do you think they should have a backup plan, or do they lose focus, like laser focus on what they want if there is a backup plan? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll touch on the first part. Every institution is different, whether it's public, private, division, on what they are able to offer in terms of athletic financial aid. There's a whole list of criteria for all of those different institutions. So it's definitely going to be university or college based. The NCAA does withhold a standard of, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think if you fall below, it's somewhere below 2.0 into like the 1.5. If you fall below that specific criteria, you become academically ineligible to participate in your sport. So that's regardless of the institution, that's the NCAA does not let you play. And then based on that, the university may have the go ahead to suspend you from the team, or to cut you, or cut your money because you didn't, stay within, the standard and the expectation of what it was when you signed on to the program. So those are all really good questions that you can find some answers online, but you would find more answers by talking to the coaches. Same thing with the academic money. There's going to be some institutions, I would say primarily private schools, that offer a lot of academic aid that kind of offset the cost of that private school tuition. And then on the opposite end, your state institutions. I work for a Cal State school where you really don't get any academic aid. You get financial aid if you fall at a certain point in regards to your family's income and your FAFSA and what you get back on that. But we don't really offer any academic aid. So all of those things vary from institution to institution.
Okay.
Cheryl, can you explain what you meant by, Jackie left me the easy one apparently. Can you explain what you mean by backup plan? I kind of get it, just, but what specifically are you asking?
I'm talking about the top 2% athletes. And, draft season's coming in hockey, OHL, whatever, those, triple A's, draft, whatever. What I'm wondering is, as a coach, or even as a parent who's not a coach, are you saying just do it? Just do everything you need to get on that team, to get in that draft, to get blah, blah, blah? Or are you saying, let's do our best here, but let's have a backup plan? Maybe you look at trades. Maybe you look at doing different courses. Like, I know and I'm only relating this to me because when I left my job very, very recently to do this, I was going to have little side things going on, supply teaching or whatever. And then when I get into this, I'm like, nope, I don't want a backup plan because it's going to give me a safety net and not allow me to go forward. So I'm putting that in this context. When you are, and I mean top 1-2%, are you saying, okay, we're going for it? There's nothing else to look at. This is it. Is that a conversation or is that not a conversation?
No, it's a conversation. I think the first thing you really have to understand, we have to define what that 1 or 2% really means. I'm not deflecting. I just want to make sure we know. That's like you're getting recruited, you're getting scouted, like pro. You're talking pro.
100%.
Okay.
Connor McDavid level.
Yeah. Okay. I should know who that is. All right. So just because I'm not Canadian doesn't mean I don't know who that is. If we're defining the 1 or 2%, yeah, 100%. I think you burn your boats. Sorry, did I freeze?
It's okay. It's okay.
It's all right. I think you burn your boats. And I think meaning you just, there's no second option, because there is no second option, because you don't have, at that level, that's your job. That's your life. You have no other time to do anything else. And I'll give you an example. I have a friend whose son, excellent hockey player. He didn't go to college. Out of high school, he went to, I'm going to say this wrong. I don't mean to just don't understand the hockey side of it. He went to a hockey academy. And that's cutthroat. I mean, that's the introduction to like top level professional sports where that's all they do. Like sun up, sun down, train, work out, eat, train, work out, sleep. When are you gonna find time to do something else?
Yeah.
So no, you have to go all in on that. It's a different level of commitment. It's a different level of work. It's just different level of everything.
And that makes sense to me. And I kind of thought that's where that would go, like the top percent. That's what we're doing. I just have one more thing to talk about, and that is, we talked about how expensive it is for parents. And I actually just went to my nephew's hockey game on Saturday. He's 14. She pays like $10,000 a year just to be in that's not your travel. That's not your $400 hockey stick. That's not your, oh my God. So what I want to know is, and this might be just US, are there any resources, any philanthropists, any opportunities for parents to access financial support for kids to continue on so they don't have to say, I'm sorry, I can't afford to put you in any sport? Are there options? Are there resources, places that we might not know to look?
If there are, they're not talked about enough. There's one organization that I work for. It's called Football for Her. They're partnered with an NWSL team, Angel City, in California. And they do like different various like mentorship and scholarship type programs, but I think it's to a certain extent with how the soccer structure is in Southern California, and it sounds like it might be similar to hockey. It can be elitist. There's a lot that goes into it. I hope that it's being recognized that there are so many talented players that are unfortunately not in the position to continue on at the highest level because of how much it costs. But I unfortunately cannot say that I know of any. I have not heard of any, which is really unfortunate, just because like when you get to college, you might get that, support based on, your application and what you've achieved. And is it the same? Can it be the same thing when they're younger? I hope one day it will be, because in the European model of how youth academies are done in the soccer and football landscape is, the kids pretty much go to these youth academies for free because it's on selection, that they're good enough to be a part of those programs and not that their parents paid for them to be in the programs.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely should be more of that type of philanthropy, as you say, and resources out there. I know it's not well known. I know of one just because I've worked with them, and it's the Aya Sports Foundation. And what they do is they work and help support the whole athletic process, recruiting, travel, recruiting, the whole, and even going to college is for Latina athletes. Because I do a lot of my recruiting out in California, and those are my contacts, is that coach was also a travel ball coach who also, and he and his daughter and his wife set up that foundation. That's exactly what you're looking for. There's support financially, but also the educational piece of how to get into school and how to do this and how to get a job and how to handle finances. It's an all-encompassing foundation. There should be more of that. And if there is, I don't know of it. I just am happy. I'm just lucky enough to know of them because of my relationship and friendship with that family. P.S. I recruited his daughter for Yale. So that was the end, but became really good friends with them and the family. It's tough because it's so expensive, and now it's a business. Whereas when travel first started, it was about
Like getting the best players together.
correct better kids. Correct. It wasn't in-house, right? There's the no started out as no neighborhood kids getting together, join the local league, whatever sport that is. Then you had your all-star teams, which then became a travel team, and then travel team took on a totally different model. I'm not saying it's bad, but what's happening is when that organization, doesn't matter what sport it is, because every sport has it, is you have to be in this elite. If you want to be in the, and each program has like 4 to 8 levels. You're this tier, but really you're not that tier, and this and that. And it becomes a money grab because they're telling you have to do all this stuff or you're not committed. Like you have to join the, it's the whatever 10th, as in your example. I'm using your nephew, hockey. I'll use him as an example. It's like, I'm sure he pays like $10,000, like you said, a year. That's just in fees, but you have to do this training and that training, and you can't miss that. You can't play any other sport, and you can't do that. If you are not committed, and then we're not going to take you serious, and then you won't get any playing time. It defeats the whole purpose of it, and defeats the whole purpose of a teen or an athlete to be an athlete and be a teen or be a kid. You can still be serious in that. If you look at all the professional athletes out there, like the top athletes, like the first one that comes to mind, I mean, any of them. I can't think of the answer. Who was the Sixers point guard? I can't remember his name. Anyway, God, I'm so mad at myself. Anyway, if you look at all the top,
branch out into other sports.
They're all stars in every sport. He played football, he played basketball, and he played baseball. They all played different sports. Did that affect their chance of playing in the pros or even college? I don't think so. It's just again, that's another topic for another day, hopefully. But what ends up happening is you pigeonhole that kid, and you're telling him you can't. At what point does it become developing that kid to be the best player they can, athlete they can, to you have to do this because I need to make my yearly salary?
Yeah. Really good points. Really good points. I think if anyone's listening to this and has the opportunity to start creating these resources for kids and families, let's do that. So tell me, what's next for you guys? I'm excited now.
That was good. That was a good segue. So Jackie and I have been spending since our time at the College of Staten Island, we've kept in contact. And through COVID, through everything, and life, but also sports and college and ups and downs and all that. And when you sit down and over coffee or maybe an adult beverage and over Zoom, and you're like, we should do this. Well, we have, and we are starting a podcast beginning of the year. It's called Coach's Compass. And what that means is it's the coach's guide to building bonds in winning ways. And it encapsulates our philosophy is we have a unique gift, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is we have an ability, and I think this is our main priority when we work with athletes, is I want to get to know you. We want to get to know you as a person, not just an athlete. Like, we know you can play the sport, but our superpower is we want to get to know you, we want to get to know your personality, because if you don't know that personality, you don't know their language, like how they hear things, how they learn, their learning language. What's up happening is the message gets lost. So in order to build that bond with that student athlete, there's a trust. And as that trust goes both ways, that increases. And as that increases, the empowerment you give to that student athlete goes. More trust, more empowerment. So by that and creating that bond and that relationship, their athletic ability increases, and then everyone's happy. I mean, sports is fun.
Well, based on our conversation, I think that podcast is going to be amazing, and I'm excited for it. Can you just let us know where to find you? Drop your socials, Eric. Drop your
Yeah,
socials.
I know
Come
that-
on, homie. You got
Jackie go
this.
first. I was letting Jackie go first. I know what that means. Hashtag.
Did you? Did you? No, Eric is savvy. I'm so proud of him. My main place to find me, the main place to find me is Instagram, and my title, what is my handle, is JB in the Sky. I was really into the Beatles when I was 16 and Instagram came out, so that was a Lucy in the Sky reference. But you can follow me there. Eric and I are definitely early in this process of and taking next steps. But like he said, I think the biggest thing for us is we know that we are talented coaches, but I think our reach definitely goes further than what happens on the field. The connection, the bonds, the mentorship that is also the responsibility we feel is our responsibility as coaches. We don't have enough, like, I want to be able to reach more than just the students that are on my team. And I think Eric can attest, and he feels the same way, that, you know, it's not easy to come across mentors. It's not always easy to come across good coaches. So if we can be an extra resource for some of these players on their journey to help in whatever way we can, offer advice similarly to their parents who might be, if this is their first kid and they're a really talented athlete, like, what do I do with this? So being able to provide all types of information like that, I think is both really important to the both of us.
Well, you got the reach today for sure. Eric?
Awesome.
No, it's Instagram, and it's at Coach Kraut. Super simple. Nothing as cool as Jackie's.
I should probably rebrand.
That's awesome. I want to thank you both. This was such great conversation, and I feel like we could do this again and again and again, because the more you touched on things, I'm like, oh, I want to go down that rabbit hole, and I want to go down that rabbit hole. So we'll go down more rabbit holes, I hope.
I appreciate the questions you came up with, because I think they're important, and I think people know it, but they don't know it. And the fact that you brought it out, and I think ultimately it's just being self-aware as a parent. Like, take a step, like Jackie said, take a step back. Like, am I too involved? Do I want this more than the child or the teen? It's just like taking some stock in, you know, where you are in this. And again, Jackie and I are not saying don't be involved. It's just, you got to know how to be involved.
Yeah, you got their back. You got to push them up from underneath instead of smothering them. I think we talk. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Teen Minds Redefined. And I thank my guests, Eric and Jackie, and hope we can do this again. Appreciate your listening. And that's a wrap. See you next week.